there is going to be first, let's go over the local 2 blog posts and all the new stuff that's in there for local models. Just laser focused now on getting a nice local free experience that's easy to set up. We're going to talk about accessibility grants too, which have been super exciting, that Ohana has been providing for the Openinterpreter community to make really cool stuff for accessibility. We'll talk about profiles and maybe kind of try to build our own. That's going to be about maybe DeepSeek or something. We'll find some good local models. I kind of would love to be riffing with people about how to get local models to work even better, and this update is especially about that. Then let's talk about the O1. And there's a cool O1 rewrite that's about to be merged in, written by the incredible Kai, who also wrote our iOS app. There's another iOS app too. There's actually 2 of them, and I kind of want to look into those. But then little bits of maybe some of the O1 manufacturing update. There's some new stuff to talk about there. I'll let Ben do that at the actual manufacturing update soon, but I can at least give you some little tidbits. And then let's just talk and just vibe and talk about open source language models, particularly the idea of fine-tuning our own, which is quite the center of this update. I'm also going to plug in my computer. Mike, did I miss anything?
No, you nailed it. That's an exciting Friday evening in the Openinterpreter world. And if anyone is having issues, I saw Ben posted a screenshot showing the things that are still loading. If you can hear me, it's probably no issue, but Yikes is streaming on Twitter and Twitch. So
yeah, let me know if it's broken over there too. It certainly might be, but I'm pretty sure it's okay.
Yep, I got Twitter open and it's working there.
Hell
so.
yeah.
That is awesome. And actually, if you want to, Mike, if you want to retweet Yikes from the main account, if you can.
Oh shit.
Real official out here. Account, everyone.
They let him on the corporate one.
Yeah,
it's all over.
I'm gonna keep the memes to a minimum. Try to keep it professional, but we gotta give the people what they want.
True.
Okay, I'm rolling in and getting my laptop plugged in because I'm on like. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. And let's get into the update. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay. Does that work?
Yep, looking good.
Nice. Okay. Are you ready for this update?
As a wise man once said, esket it.
Esket it. All right. This is local 2. This is coming in hot on the heels of local 1. There was kind of like the local 0, which was the launch of Openinterpreter, which had the ability to run interpreter -- local. It set up code llama. It barely worked. That was using Python CPP, I think, Llama CPP Python, which is an incredible library, but it is not the case that it's like super working on everybody's computers. It required a little bit more setup. And a lot of, honestly, the journey of this community in the beginning was actually trying to figure out how to get code llama running on people's computers. This has been like a really, really cool thing that, if it worked really well, then it's kind of one of the best things about Openinterpreter, that you can have this kind of personal computer moment of language models, that this thing is not just a chatbot that you're able to talk to, but actually is a local model that's controlling your computer, that you can kind of think about it then as a Jarvis, or as a Star Trek computer. And I think that local 2 is way better than what we had before. So we just like poured a lot of our resources into totally pivoting away from hosted models for this update, and really trying to get the local setup experience and the usage of local models really good. Can I confirm, by the way, that I'm still on?
You can.
Okay. Because last time, this is how far I got into it, and then like I went back over. I was like, let's see if anybody dropped it.
Yeah, it's the jinx moment, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's get into it. So first of all, probably the biggest thing is that, well, this isn't the biggest thing, but we have very deep integrations now with Ollama. So part of local 2 is you just kind of download Ollama, and then you can run interpreter -- model Ollama /, put whatever you want there. There are great bio models on Ollama. There's obviously all the Llama models and CodeStrill, and it's just going to download it and run it and do everything for you under the hood. So you can kind of think of like anything that you would usually do as Ollama pull and then pulling that model or Ollama run. All of that happens under the hood now. You can just run interpreter -- model Ollama / and then whatever model you want. This is like, it gives every single Ollama model you can find in their library the superpowers of being able to control your computer and execute the code that they write. Now, that's pretty cool, but it would be much cooler if we had our own model. So the part of Local 2 is actually that we are starting the journey towards having our own local model, Interpreter 1. This is going to be a massively multiplayer online open source effort to make a very great agentic model, 7 or 8 billion parameters, that is very good at controlling your computer. It knows Openinterpreter and the computer API very well. So the way that we're going to do this is by letting folks contribute conversations. So you can actually opt into this by just under any conversation, you can do -- contribute conversations. We've talked about this for months that we wanted to do this. By the way, am I still on? Just
Yes,
confirm.
you is. Yep, you're
Yeah,
good.
okay,
That
okay.
was very. I'm glad that was hearable to people because that's very, very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm super, super excited about it too, but I'm even more excited about this way of doing it, which is that we are going to have a free hosted opt-in model called the I model. And it's just Llama 70B, but it's totally free. So you can just now on any computer without any API key, without any setup, you can run interpreter -- model I. And that is a completely free endpoint. We're going to be dropping the model there once we have it, and constantly fine tuning and constantly changing the prompts to get that as good as possible. Completely free. The reason it's free is that we're going to use the stuff that's sent to that model, all those conversations, and we're going to use them to train an open source language model. So you'll be displayed a little warning. This is super opt-in. That if you have conversations with the free 70, this is Llama 70B that's being served just over Grok, so it's actually free for us too. But don't tell
Nice.
Grok that. Yeah. But yeah, let's just start there and kind of see what it is that we can collect and try to make a really, really great small language model for computer control. That's the heart of this update. Now, in addition to there being now a free endpoint that starts the journey towards our own language model, we also have an incredible new local explorer, which makes it easier than ever to use and set up local language models. This was written by Ty Fiaro. Very, very good. Now you can actually just like run interpreter -- local, flick through the providers, pick a model, and you're done. We had tried to think like, oh, should we be hooked to LM Studio? Should we be hooked to Llama CPP Python? Like, what should we do? Choice is always the option. And now there is a really great local explorer with a bunch of different inference engines and a bunch of different models. So actually, if we pull this up, and here I'm gonna do this just so I can make sure I'm in the right desktop. I'll show you the explorer. And after this, by the way, we can go through and actually just play with all these. And get your thoughts on it.
Good question. Any idea on how much VRAM would be needed to run it?
Depends which model. So I mean, you mean like when we do our own?
Yeah, or yeah, presumably, or I don't know.
I'm thinking the move is to work with. I'm going to be talking to David Corbett and Kyle Corbett of OpenPipe, who are really, really great. They're from around here, and they have this service called OpenPipe. They train Llama 3 models night and day, all the time. I think let's just fine tune a Llama 3 model to get started. Like that's kind of going to be the beginning of this.
Checks
So
out.
it would be the exact same as Llama 3 7B, or Llama 3 8B, and that works very fast on my computer. So let's try it. And this is live demo, so who knows how it's going to go. But now when you run interpreter -- local, you get this beautiful selection of a bunch of providers. There's only 4 now, but I think we're going to add a lot more. Or maybe it'll become kind of clear that like one of these should be the main one that people use. I can imagine Llama-File really taking off as a part of this, which is a project by Justine Tunney that bundles the inference engine with the weights of the
Huge
model.
fan. Huge fan.
Huge fan. But check this out. So I just literally like selected Ollama, and then now I'm here. I have all of my Ollama models that I've already downloaded. I can download other ones. Like these are all going to be available as like little ones you can download. If I want, I can even go and browse more models and head to their library. And any of this works because it's just literally gonna write all the things that Ollama does. Okay, so I'll go into Ollama. Let's try out Llama 3. Actually, I might as well throw this one in here. It's actually going to warm it up too, which I've been quite enjoying. Instead of me like sitting here after I've sent my first message, it warms it up. I don't know if this is going to be the same profile that we had on the last one, actually. Let me try. This is like my very hello world version of this. And I'm we'll see how this is. See, this is why we need a little bit of fine tuning, is that when I run this code, it's going to do it with your username. It loves to use placeholders. Ooh, okay. Nice. It recognized, so this is a Llama 3 model, so that's how lightning fast this thing runs with no Wi-Fi. Obviously, I'm not going to turn off my Wi-Fi to test it out. I did that earlier with some friends, and that was really dumb because I just dropped off. But this is that fast, and I think I'm running on like, I don't know, I got this computer I think like a couple months ago, so it is pretty new. But I know that Ben's computer was running Llama 3, and it was like pretty fast. Maybe like GPT-4 in the early days speed, but completely offline and completely private. Llama 3 is the weakest model though, as part of all this. And honestly, you're going to be super impressed with CodeStroll. It's ridiculous. But before we get, so let's super play with that in just a minute, but that's the local explorer. And we're going to be adding more inference engines and more models and figuring this out. Of course, the I model is a super cool part of the local 2 update, which is this ability to have a totally free API key lists endpoint. And that's just going to be something where folks that are sending conversations to it, we'll actually use those and make our own incredible open source language model. There's also some special profiles here. A profile, I don't know if anybody has kind of been tracking this. I know like Anton was really at the heart of a lot of these changes. Not Naton is how I always read his name. Which is, what started as configuration files, they're now profiles. And profiles can have some very cool properties, including being Python files that include some amount of setup. Now, a cool thing about profiles is that you can actually put a URL here. So this isn't a big part of the update because I think we're going to really like try to get a cool place where folks can be uploading profiles and thinking about it like a little more sharing. But if you want, you can host a profile and then put its URL there and run interpreter -- profile, and then that will pull the system message and all the stuff that you need to do to set it up if it's a Python file, or if it's a YAML file or a JSON file. You can kind of imagine this as like the little initialization chip in sci-fi that would like, okay, now here's like the personality of my thing. It contains all the settings to set up that language model along with its personality, and in the case of the O1, it's skills. And a bunch of other things that you can initialize. So that's pretty sick. And there are 2 really nicely ironed out profiles for CodeStroll and for Llama. So I'll show you like the CodeStroll ones. CodeStroll one here. Let me pull it up from default. CodeStroll. So check this out. This is the profile. It's in Python, and I mean literally you could either imagine a profile as like a file that you just are importing interpreter from. So like if you put this profile into a project that you're building, you could just go from CodeStroll import interpreter, because all it does is it just gets an interpreter object and then applies a bunch of changes to it. But you can also just run it right from the command line and actually just like use the profile. And in this case, we've actually made a shortcut for that. So you can do poetry run interpreter -- CodeStroll. Now, obviously, this is the development environment uses poetry run, so you would just run interpreter -- CodeStroll. But this will then run this profile and actually set up CodeStrol and use this system message and use these message templates. This is a new part of the local 2 update that lets you kind of wrap user messages like this into other things. And that tends to be much better for couching messages and sending them off to local language models because they don't really anticipate the kind of interaction that you have with Openinterpreter the way that GPT-4 does. This was a massive, massive boost to performance, is to just add little code templates that you could play with. And it's why it's super exciting to imagine kind of opening up profiles to everybody and letting folks find out, okay, how does DeepSeek like things to be fed into it? You know, how does CodeStrol like things to be fed into it or whatever comes next? And then if you make a PR into the terminal interface profiles defaults, then everybody can access it by just running interpreter -- profile and selecting that profile. So this is a super cool part of this update, is that now we can start to like actually change the system message, which is that big behemoth that used to be just like, you are a world-class programmer, did not work for a lot of language models. In the beginning, actually, there's a reason local models sucked so bad, which is that if it was a local model, I actually was struggling to get any local model running on my computer. So I made it so that if it was a local model, it would actually just set the system message to, you are an AI assistant. So that's why that wasn't working all too well. But then people played with the system message and found stuff that works better. And now there's a place to put those developments. And when we can all kind of be sharing on like, okay, how do local language models that have access to running code on your computer like to behave? So I've been super impressed with CodeStrol, by the way. I'll just try this. My hello world here too. I'll say, what time is it in Seattle? And this is going to run it through all this stuff. So it is using this system message, and you can see it's not as fast as Llama 3, but it's so fast. Like, that's utterly usable. It is
Yeah, what
utterly.
machine are you on, Killian? Are you on like an M2 or?
Yeah, let's see what I'm on. I'm on a M3.
Okay.
M3. I'm on a good one. So
Big
this
shot.
is a pretty beefy computer. And this was really like, okay, we're not going to be really able to train and play with models unless like there's a nice computer below this. But trying out CodeStrol on Ben's computer, it's still smart, but it's just slower. Like Ben's computer is like my last MacBook, I think, which was like from 2020. So it's good and it's fast. I'm going to try sum up. No. We'll say how many images are on desktop. Gets right to the code. This is completely local. And it's a banger. Let's see if we can do it. Nice job. It's just not that different from in the early days of playing with this with GPT-4, honestly. Like, all of my kind of benchmark tests that I've always done with local language models, this passes all of them. So we're gonna need to find harder like things to ask it to do. So let's play with this in a moment, by the way, and we'll do it in this more beautiful, serene environment. But that's a little bit of that kind of specific profiles for this. So I really imagine that for most people, the experience of local is going to be running interpreter -- CodeStrol. That's really like my recommended profile. It's a really, really great experience. If you can't run that, then just doing interpreter -- Llama 3. That's incredibly good too. But it's not as good as CodeStrol. And then if you want to be playing around and doing stuff and playing around with different models, then just run interpreter -- local, and then you get this beautiful little explorer. Beyond that, beyond the optimized profiles, we have local vision. So I'm super, super excited about this. I'm sure everybody here has heard of Moondream. Moondream is now a part of Openinterpreter. So if you haven't heard of Moondream, Moondream is an incredible, very tiny computer vision model. It's 1.6 billion parameters. It's lightning fast. It's like people are using it in like 3D printers to check if their prints has failed and things like that. Very, very great model built by the incredible Vic, who I'm sure you all know. Oh my God, Ty. That's so cool. Yep, but here is Vic on Twitter. You all know Vic. You all know Vic. That is now completely in Openinterpreter. So you'll notice images sent to the model will be described with Moondream. This is a pretty magical thing. So I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna pip install this just so I have it. Okay, I gotta sudo this. And then let's try actually passing in an image into CodeStroll. Let's pass in an image from my desktop. And we'll see, because what's going to happen is that it is going to render the image using Moondream. So Moondream is going to describe the image, and then it's going to pass that description into CodeStroll if everything works as expected. Let's try local vision.
Is that part of the llama file? Like, is that just coming natively with whatever models the local version's downloading?
It actually does this. It does it apart from the model. So that's why you could actually do this with any model you wanted. I am going to do this with CodeStroll though, instead of just the local explorer. That sets some extra settings. So literally all it does is just like when you see an image, it renders it with Moondream. Do we not have vision set up right now? Okay, let's do it with Llama. Or no, this should work fine. Let me try this. Really hoping this works. We got a cool stuff on the last push of this that Mike has been cooking on, which was actually like looking at the images on his desktop and having it rename it based on what was in it.
Yeah,
So
I
that
can probably share that here too afterwards.
that
Get a
would be
little sneak preview.
That would be sick. There is also something that I've been playing with too, which is just having it run the OCR portion, which runs lightning fast. Moondream can take a little bit to set up. But the dream here is very much like there is no reason why, if we don't have great vision models, why that can't kind of render images that you pass into it and turn them into text for local language models to play with. Okay, so let's see. I'll flip back over there and make sure that it loads up okay. Oh. Look at that. My computer's burning hot right now, by the way. I don't know if this is not how I'm usually expecting it, but I wonder if it has something to do with Discord. Here's how I would interpret the image using Python. That's fascinating. Okay, so take a look at what it saw. So it looked at this graph, distribution of file types on desktop, and then completely locally, it appears to be a visual representation of the distribution of 3 different types of files on a desktop. The data suggests that there are more PNG files than either JPEG or MPEG files. I don't know where it got MPEG because this doesn't have any extension, which is so bizarre. It generated this earlier too. I just asked it. I was like, what's the distribution of files on my desktop? That's pretty sick. Like, we are completely offline, and it was able to see a graph and actually infer some things about it. And again, this is completely private and free and local. I'm kind of interested in what this will do. I don't know what code it's written here. Yeah. I love that interpretation. But that's pretty sick. And to bind like the developments in Moondream, which by the way, Vic just put out an update which lets it see in incredibly high resolution. It used to be, I think, that Moondream was like locked at 300 by 300. By binding these ideas and binding Moondream into this whole setup, and hopefully even working with Quentin, who did Llama 3 Vision, or with Vic on trying to think about training our own model with these kinds of ideas involved. Hopefully we can kind of couple them at the embedding layer instead and do something even more interesting than just turning them into text and then passing it to the model. I think that's totally within our community to make an incredible local language model, multimodal model for computer control. Do we get to keep calling them language models, by the way? Like, are we gonna have to stop saying that? Because
They're large action models, thank you very much. It's definitely not a buzzword for marketing.
Yeah. Did you see there's like Action Packed was the title for like WWDC for the poster, and everybody was like large action model. Like, I think this might be what they're cooking up. I hope so. But LMM I've heard like large multimodal model. I'm not really a fan of of that. I like language.
I
It's just
like VLM, like vision language model. Like it
VLM is
is
good.
kind of suffice. You know, it doesn't cover every single modality, of course, but like it gets the idea across, at least
I
IMO.
like that a lot too. Yeah, VLM is good. So this is kind of psychotic and barely works, but this does mean that we can start playing with local OS. Because if we are, and this is why it is that we're going in this direction, is to try to start figuring out, okay, can we get all the interesting OS mode stuff to work fully offline? It's very much a toy right now. Like the ability to like describe what's on the screen is not really enough information to pass into the language model and let it really click around. Um, but let's give it a try. So I'm going to do local OS, and this is the beginnings of a local action model, which is going to see what's on my screen and take actions. And actually, I'm going to do llama 3. So I'm just going to, at least let's try clicking. Let's see if it can click on something. So I'm going to say click. What should we do? Click the output. So that's this here. Come on. No luck. It is a pretty weak model. Okay, let's try this. I'm going to try to switch it to code stroll. See if we get anywhere.
While we wait, good point from Noel. Do you guys have like like let's say I want to get involved with Openinterpreter and I want to start like committing and all that good stuff. Is there a good like onboarding resource or video or something that like walks through the repo?
Ooh, that's a great point. Ooh, okay, here we go. So this is code stroll. Hey, it's running all the right code to do it. So this should now pull up the open source point model, which is also running locally, and that finds stuff on the screen. Ooh, is it going to be able to get this? There's a bunch of different output buttons.
I believe.
Come on, come on. Yeah, do it. No, go crazy. Just pick one. Oh,
Do them all.
come on. Yeah, do them all. Do them all. Do them all.
Any of them.
Any. Attempt to click. All right. Hey,
You can do
okay.
it.
He's nice.
Hell yeah.
Fully
Well
local,
done.
fully offline, OS
Fuck yeah.
mode. I think it's done.
AKA the actual Rabbit R1. But,
The actual Rabbit R1. Okay, so this is the beginning of this, but like, and again, like, so for example, it's confused about the fact that there are placeholders. Like these models were all trained to be assistants. They weren't trained to run code, but it's not that different to imagine, if we can get this training data of this thing working and put it into a fine tune of Llama 3, I really think we can start to approximate proper local computer controlling language model, VLM. And I think that that's within the people in this space to build a computer controlling language model, probably within the next month and a half.
Have you guys gotten started on that data set and/or do you have raw data that you're collecting so far?
No, so what this starts today. So this is the journey of this, is that Local 2 comes with the Local Explorer and then also the I model. And then also if you want to run interpreter -- contribute conversation, then you can send stuff to the database that way. And that will be the stuff that we use for the language model. So nothing has been collected yet. We're just beginning now, but hopefully kind of we can make something that is open weight and open training data too, of course. We'll redact PII and kind of go through it and filter it and make sure that stuff doesn't get in there. But this should be the proper, if this stuff works and this is actually the beginning of a new way to use computers, it should be private. It should be local. It should be free. It should belong to all of us. But we're going to need a lot of help from the community to figure out how to put it together.
Yes, we should do it together.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So by the way, so onboarding into actually contributing. This is a great idea actually to have like kind of a map of the repo. I can do a basic one real quick, and just show like super basic overview of it. But honestly, we should have like a nice little video that kind of shows what this is like to go through it. I'll tell you that everything is in interpreter. Everything is here in the Openinterpreter/interpreter. The rest is just docs and then some of the installers and tests and stuff. And I'll just go through a couple layers of this, and you can kind of see how this thing is working. So the core is the part where there is a language model, and then there's the computer, which is kind of the code execution environment. We'll get in there in a second. That's what the interpreter is. But you can kind of treat the core as like, I'm going to beam messages into this thing, and then it's going to execute code and run things, and it's going to beam messages out. It doesn't care what it looks like to use it. So for example, we've been building this desktop application, and it's wrapped around the core. And it just makes, it's a very simple process into this. The O1 is another thing that like uses the core just as is. It's just that it also beams in speech, and we'll turn it into text and then beam that into the thing and then turn the text out into speech. But the core is still the same. The terminal interface is literally just, it's how we all know and love Openinterpreter, and it's all the stuff like the local explorers here, for example, this local setup.py, all the magic commands and everything. This is just it's almost like the most simple app you can imagine building on top of the core. It's like a very thin layer to just access the functionality of the core. There's like components of like the kind of blocks that gets rendered on the screen. And then the profiles is all that stuff that I was telling you guys about, which is like all these different profiles that we now have, which kind of specify, okay, if you're in local mode, this is what you should all the settings that you should change. Your default.yaml is going to be the one that's selected automatically, and it contains all the default settings. And again, these can be in YAML format, or they can be Python files, or they can be JSON files. They just need to specify little settings here. And by the way, these settings just apply beautifully over the core. So now let's go into the core, and you'll see that there is a computer part of the core, there's an LLM part of the core, and then there's kind of more general settings above it. So that's the terminal interface, just like an app on top of the core. And then here's the core. And you can see it in here too. So it's mainly here in the core.py and the respond.py. So this is like, like this is the main entry point is the core here. And it's where everything is, and all settings on top of stuff are all in here. And basically what this does is as soon as you press enter and are ready to go ahead, then you pop over into respond. So this is where actually a lot of this is really where Openinterpreter happens. It's where the rubber meets the road is in respond. So for example, you run the code here. Like this is the heart of it. Now then there's LLM and computer. So in the LLM, we have all the logic to, like, for example, make a non-function calling language model into a sort of a function calling language model, in that it has one function which runs the code. So this contains like all the logic to parse it emitting code blocks. Like when CodeStore wants to run code, it's actually just emitting a code snippet with a little markdown code block with 3 backticks. So that's all the logic that's here in the LLM. And there's also the computer. And this, we're adding tons of very cool stuff into the computer API, but this is what lets OS mode happen, for example. This is kind of our own custom library that is written for language models to operate. So this wasn't written for people to call any of these functions. These were all written for the language model to operate, but within a Python environment. So that's the basics of this, is that there's Openinterpreter. Within that, there is interpreter. There's the core guts of this, the terminal interface, which is just a little view into it that just passes stuff in and takes stuff out. And then within the core, there's the LLM, the computer, and then the core of the core, which is the thing that kind of just is grand central station and passes things around between the language model and the computer. Okay, so hopefully that was at least a little bit helpful for folks that want to actually just basically see where things are. We're coming up too on having our roadmap be public. So we have like a linear that has a bunch of stuff that we've been cooking on, and Ben has been finding the right way to kind of make that so that we can just have like a public roadmap, and people can vote on stuff, and people can pick stuff up and contribute to it if they want, if they have the expertise. So stay tuned for that. But hopefully in like the next 2 weeks, we can have something that's just public, and so you can know what would be most helpful. But honestly, if you just use Openinterpreter and then you're like, this pisses me off, I hate how this works, you can go in there and work it. And that's a great way to be helping out with things. And if you find bugs too, it's like super, super helpful. So there's a bunch of ways to contribute. I'm going to take a look real quick too. I live in a free world, big brother. What's going on in here? What's going on?
There's a whole lot to catch up on.
Oh
Whoa,
yeah,
whoa,
you've been
what's
missing the
happening?
chat, Killian. Shoot.
What the hell? We need a thing that like voices the chat. Like I really want that. Like on
I
stream.
think that would be chaos, but
I
you
mean,
know,
I
you
can
have
do that.
headphones on.
That's fine. I picked
Yeah,
out
yeah,
the good
just very
ones
impressed.
and read a few of them. You know.
This is open source. Everybody should get a voice. Everybody gets a slightly different voice, and we're all just competing. against each
Perfect. I like it. All those years of D&D paid off.
other. Oh yeah, that's good, Ben. Too. Yeah, if anybody knows a way, so we're in linear. If someone knows how to like, do this, then that'd be sick.
Oh yeah,
My-
I was just gonna say I'm almost done browbeating my team into moving from Jira to linear, so
Hell yeah,
I'm starting
do
to get
Well done.
familiar with it. So
I think that's a very good move. Linear has been a lot of fun for us. Can you talk about voice? Yeah. So my voice or the thing's voice, which is that we have like the O1 updates. I'll save for the end. So actually, okay, we had an agenda. I wanna stick to that. And be good. But basically, we're gonna go over a little bit more of this. Let's see if there's anything left in the blog post. I don't think that there is. I think that's kind of where it is. We have a little bit of why it is that we're doing this, and also just a million of the things that have actually happened. Like just some of the minor stuff too that's a part of this update. You can fucking export now as a Jupyter notebook, which is awesome, right from within the chat. So as you're talking to it, you can export as a Jupyter notebook and put it somewhere just to do the % command. There's a bunch of bug fixes that happened. Like if you're a Chinese speaker, then there's actually a lot of things that have been made much easier. This plagued the O1, the completion message looping of like, I think I can help with that, or like a task is complete, task is complete, task is complete. That's fixed. Ruby supported. Like this is a gold mine of like there's so many interesting things that got fixed because of this. We had so many people cooking on this. You can do % now and then run your own shell inside the interpreter's thing. So if you're like, okay, well, I know the simple next command to use, I can just do %. A lot of really, really nice stuff. And I'm going to surface more of these big things that people did and put them in here. Not Nathan figured out Llama 3, like a total breaking fix to Llama 3 and completely just nailed it. A bunch of great stuff is in this update. So okay, that's local 2. And we can dive in and play with some stuff and talk about people's experience with local language models in a minute. But there was also these accessibility updates that I think we have. So the last thing that we put out was Ohana's accessibility grants, and this is thanks to Emil's, who's here, right?
Yeah. Emil, do you want to get up on the stage, give a little hello to the audience? But while we wait for that decision, yeah, just to let everyone know. Oh, perfect. 50 grand in AI credits is up for grabs if you have an idea to improve accessibility. So with technology, there's a disparity between who gets to benefit from it because it's definitely tailored for the masses. Try to reach like the easiest way to reach a large demographic, but there's a lot of people who are left behind because of that. So with a tool like Openinterpreter, the O1, it really becomes a strong enabler to level the playing field. And a lot of people who have different capabilities are able to benefit from technology just like everyone else. But we need your help to come up with ideas and different perspectives in order to guide the way that these projects are happening. And we don't want to let the cost of LLMs impede that from happening. So we want to work with you, meet with the Ohana team, meet with the OI team, and then we can figure out how to best turn your ideas into reality. Let's get Emil up here to give a quick intro as to who he is.
Hey
Emil.
guys, what's up? It's a bit late over here, so excuse
Late
my...
or early? Isn't it 6:30 in the morning?
7 a.m. Same thing.
Yeah, go
It's
to
all about
bed!
it's all about perspective. Hey guys, yeah, I'm Emil. We've had some awesome things happening over at the accessibility channel. And with a few people in this community, so I'll just say, hey, let's keep it up. We had an amazing roundtable. I think Mike, what was it, a couple of weeks ago? That was immensely. There's a word that should go here. You know, but yeah, it was great. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how this keeps going. And yes, credits up for grabs for anyone who has any sort of cool idea. Moonshot ideas are welcome. Practical ideas are welcome. Somewhat, maybe a little bit, kind of connected to accessibility ideas are welcome, and just ideas that would contribute to the project in general as well are also welcome. So, yeah. So, thanks guys for providing the platform to kind of allow for something like this and being open-minded in order to do it. And yeah, looking forward to seeing the next stage of this. So, yes, email out.
Thanks, Emil. You're getting some love in the chat, so give her a scroll back. And just to elaborate on what Emil mentioned, we had an accessibility roundtable where we got everyone together, talked about different accessibility things. We had about 4 different people propose their ideas, and it ranged from helping the visually impaired, helping everyone be able to interact with music, like a whole different spectrum of different possibilities. So don't feel that your idea might be out of bounds for it. If you have something, come pitch it. We'll even brainstorm with you if it's not totally aligned to try to get to a spot that you are going to make a tangible difference. So we've been super excited about this project, getting a lot of positive response, and there's always room for more. So please message in where is it, accessibility, and just let us know your idea, and we'll chat there.
Emil, that is so cool. It's like, that's so cool. Thank you so much for doing that and for putting resources in it as like, I don't know.
And the more of Microsoft's money that we can use, the better.
Hell yeah.
I love that. Okay, sweet. So yeah, the accessibility grants, those are going on. Hop in the accessibility channel and share ideas. Even if you just have ideas that maybe other people would be inspired to be working on it, that would be sick. Also, I just want to mention too, Shinyata, James is in the chat. A lot of love to James for everything too that has been happening on that side. And there's so much. I feel like pretty soon we should do kind of an O1 focused house party, which is going to have a lot of interesting stuff coming from everybody working on the O1. Actually, I might as well hit that because I think that was the next thing on the agenda. I think that was the last thing. Yeah. Okay, so the O1. So I'll say that there is now an O1 rewrite. This has been something that since Grimes we've been working on, which was like, let's figure this out. So we obviously put together very quickly in 8 weeks with an amazing team of open source contributors in Seattle, the original O1, and we got the developer preview out there for folks to start hacking on. And over this last month, it just exploded in people actually building things on top of it. But there has always been some weirdness to the repo. Like, for example, it's blocking. So like if you say something to it, it actually will like store up the whole thing and then transcribe the whole thing and then put that into the language model, and the language model finishes and then it puts that into the speech to text. Like, it's remarkable for how like slow, if you play with it, like how nice it is still to use, because it's pretty fucking slow. And there's no reason for that. We can have streaming happen now. So the rewrite, which Kai has been on and uses extensively Koya's voice interfaces, so this is real-time TTS and real-time STT. Highly recommend you star those on GitHub. They are incredible libraries for fully streaming, literally a byte of audio comes out from the device, gets immediately turned into text, no delay. And then when it's done, and when you let go of the button, it has the text, sends it right into the language model. And then look at this, like we've been working on very fast local language models, which all gets to be inherited by the O1. So yes, offline dreams of this are completely feasible, especially if we're making our own model. And then as it's generating tokens, it starts rendering the text to speech and beaming it right out. So that rewrite, which speeds things up a lot and honestly, and clears up a lot of the mess of that repo, it makes it much shorter too. There's less code in the O1 rewrite. And I think just there's going to be a huge boon to the O1 project and that whole community once we totally verify that that works on all existing devices for folks that have them. We can have a much faster, much lighter, easier experience. WakeWord, fuck yeah! I mean, this does like we haven't played with that, but yes. By the way, so faster Whisper does allow for streaming, and that's what Koya uses. And there is a wake word functionality in there. Now, I don't, we've been like building everything around the button to kind of get over the idea of like when interruptions happen. But it absolutely has that functionality out of the box, and the idea that somebody could kind of make a PR and be like, well, let's make a version of this that has like, I kind of always imagined like wake to be one thing, and that would have like, do you want that to be a wake word? Do you want that to be kind of predictive based on interruptions, or do you want that to be a button? We should be trying to have this thing be open, and let folks pick how it is that they want it to work. So I'm really, really excited about that. Kai has been working on that. And there's also bits too of much better like actually beaming stuff out. So actually somebody mentioned too in this even like there's a reason why there's that big security stuff at the top of the O1 repo is that this is super experimental, and we're kind of trying to figure out if Ngrok with a WebSocket is really the safest way for folks to go. Like we've been fine with it, but I don't really think that works for everybody. And especially once we're rolling out like the incredible like consumer version of this, which has much higher quality components. That's the stuff that we're going to be shipping out. We don't want this to be running on something that has any risk of there being something insecure happening. So Kai has also been cooking on thinking about LiveKit in this. So this is like the idea of using a WebRTC room instead. And that whole community of LiveKit has been just absolutely cracked on security and has been thinking about ways of getting this to have a much more robust, faster, and more secure experience of audio being beamed over WebRTC. So those are some updates to the O1 rewrite. And a funny thing too that happened, just to mention this last month, was that there was I think a competition to make like who was it? It was Nick doing Friend. Was it that was like the $500 competition?
Oh yeah, the design. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to DQ somebody because they yoinked something, I think.
It was a little similar.
Yeah,
I was like, this seems legit. It's just that like James and Richard should have won that. Like pretty much like Richard who built like he was the one like 3D modeling and really making in the O1 project that original design. And then James who's here, Shinyata, like who like then extended that, made it really, really good. It feels just like you guys won that basically. So honestly, like congrats for winning a competition that like I didn't know was going on, but that's an awesome design, and I'm super excited too for what Nick is building. By the way, it is Nick, right, Mike?
Yeah, and to James's point, the person who submitted did reach out and apologize and misunderstanding. They were planning on making bigger changes, and they submitted an early STL. So, and if James wants to come up and kind of give his version too, it's an open source model. Like we're looking to help proliferate the creation of these devices. But give James a shout out. He's done a lot of good work, and we want to make sure he gets the credit he deserves.
Yeah, and I mean, for what it's worth, like it's sort of in the middle of, because I have a friend device, so I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can just rig this up to the O1 server, since like they've only have the Android app, and then I want something on my desktop, so let's just smash them all together and see what happens. So.
There's gonna be some collab there, I'm sure of it one day. They're
yeah.
two cool devices.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and by the way, on like, so I just got off the phone this morning with some of the folks that are building the firmware. We're working with the firmware of the O1, and I'll let Ben talk about that in detail because he's leading that manufacturing charge. But I'll say a little bit of from what I talked to him about is that there's a good chance that some of the best things that we can do, like some of the best decisions that we can do. Wait, let me make sure I say this. What was the point of me buying an O1 Lite? It is a much better thing than the dev kit. So for example, there is a much better speaker. It is way, way tighter and more robust. Now we're still going to open source it so that you can build it your own. But for example, like the dev kit and its ability to beam over WebSocket, its battery life is not that great. It is going to be much, much better. And yes, there's an app. There's actually 2 apps. There's 2 fantastic apps that the one that Kai is building. I think it's actually gonna power to the, like, you're gonna be able to connect your O1 Lite to it, so we can use Bluetooth and have much longer battery life than from
Ooh,
having
yeah,
to.
that'll be nice.
That is sick. So you can imagine, like, yeah, you just have your phone in your pocket and you're just walking around, and it's using like the Bluetooth Classic or BLE is kind of what we're picking around.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like that's friend works over Bluetooth, so they should have like something that's implemented that you might be able to go check in with them and see if there's any like
Oh,
stuff. Yeah.
that would be sick. Yeah. What it seems over Bluetooth. So this is the interesting thing about the conversation that I was just having, which is that if you just have it act as a speaker, microphone, and then a little Bluetooth keyboard as the button, and implement it on the app side, you can build an O1 Lite with a speaker, microphone, and a little button. And doesn't that sound familiar? There
Hell
are a
yeah.
lot of things that can then work. So you imagine this app just like figuring out how to intercept the play and the pause signal, and then like actually being able to have any of my devices be this thing that uses the O1 and talks to my computer at home is that's such a dream. If we can get that working, then it should be no different. I mean, I can imagine even like, you know, if we could intercept the play and pause button, that would be the sickest. But the only thing that we're worried about is like, would then that make it so that people couldn't actually play music while they were using their O1 Lite is the weird thing. But you can imagine it intercepting the same signals as a Bluetooth keyboard, and then you could still use your AirPods as the microphone and the speaker, but then you have this as the button. So then you take this, you're wearing your AirPods, and you take out your O1 Lite and you talk to it and you let go, and everything's running through your AirPods audio wise. That would be so sick if it could just work with the button or be that extensible. And then I imagine too that like you buy an O1 Lite, this thing is just going to work with a lot of really cool AI voice tech. So in addition to us trying to super open source all the speech to speech protocols that we've been working on, and make it so that, you know, you can just point any of these devices we end up building at somebody else's voice library, or whatever it is that they build, and we can get any kind of voice agents should be accessible through these hardware devices. And by the way, too, if you want to actually take this thing and you have an idea for something else to do with it, it's open source and you can be talking to us. And if you want to be doing something very much like this, like I know Justin Uberti at AI Town, if anybody saw that, incredible. They just absolutely exploded. They're based here in Seattle. They're like, maybe something like this and hardware would be interesting. There's so many good reasons then to have this thing be as open as possible and as extensible as possible. And that way it can be anything. You can play Rhythm Heaven. Yeah, that'd be sick. What if we could connect real world vision to the models, like your eyeballs? What do you mean by that?
Neuralink, baby. Hell yeah. Let's do it.
No, wait, a Neuralink that's reading from my eyeballs? Oh, smart glasses. Yeah, that would be better. A camera.
Oh, actually, yeah. Speaking of Friend, they have some open source glasses, and then there's another. I think Brilliant Labs has glasses as well. So open it.
I ordered it. Sorry, I ordered a set of frames, so when they arrive, I'm going to try to see what I can do with O1. So
yeah,
I'll be sure to
definitely.
keep everyone posted.
There's even more interesting stuff too. So we actually met with Bobak of Brilliant, Brilliant.xyz, who's making this incredible open source glasses, and this was all we were talking about. So I don't have anything to announce from that, but basically there's like, I just imagine kind of what that could look like to be like, you know, if the Brilliant is going to work on what might be the best kind of before a brain computer interface, maybe this is kind of one of the most ideal form factors of interacting with a computer. Like an open source meta glasses is kind of what this is. The idea of being able to hook that up to the O1 and have it beam back to my computer so it has all of the amazing like assistant technology that we've all been working on would be amazing. And Bobak is a dream. So what are you saying, Emils? What? Emil, what? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Privacy is a big deal. You know?
Just need that good holographic data set, you know? A little bit of haptics, you're fine. Anyway.
Hey. That's another thing too, actually, haptics too on the O1 is like
Oh
there's
yeah,
little thing
fuck, actually that will be really cool.
we're adding to the O1 in the version that you buy that is going to be a bit better than the dev kit that's out right now. but then we'll open source that stuff. Okay, so now I kind of just want to let like folks up on stage. Does anybody else want to come up? Or I don't know if Mike and Yikes and Emil and Two Dog. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I haven't heard from Two Dogs since we got everything working. Do you want to
Yeah.
just say hi and like, how you doing, buddy? It's been a while since we chatted.
Owen loves Canada, by the way. Mike's in Canada. Kai's in Canada.
Yeah, hey, Open Interpreters, 20% Canadian right now.
Once we figure it out in the US, we'll figure it out in Canada.
Yeah.
You can tell me. Hey, Two Dog.
Hello.
Oh,
How's
there
it
he
going?
is. Good,
It's
how you
going
doing?
good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty well. Hello. And basically, yeah, I've had some kind of huge breakthroughs thanks to you guys, and I would love to share them.
No way. Okay.
Absolutely.
I've been chipping away at trying to get Open Interpreter loaded on Apple. It's just not happening. The Rust setup tools was a brick wall, and then you cannot really run the sub-process module even in Stash
Wow. Yeah.
in
Yeah.
Pythonista or Pydo or A shell. And
Yeah.
so, long story short, I started playing with the tool calling schema. I have basically, long story short, the title of the tool selected going into the run shortcut, if you're familiar with iOS shortcuts.
Ooh, spicy.
And I want to basically just show a little demo of what I've been doing with shortcuts. And the reason this is so important for Open Interpreter is because this all started with thinking about an octopus holding another octopus at the end of every tentacle. And with the functions and the skills and the, I don't know the right term, the actions that you guys build into that package or module that's allowing it to, use Apple script or just web browser and those commands. It's like, I feel like there's something here with being able to create entire agent systems that exist in shortcuts that then Open Interpreter can use like extremely reliable skills. So let me just show you a couple things.
Awesome. I'm looking up too. Quick on Twitter. There were some folks who.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we got you.
Hold on here. That may help. Can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I took a cue from you guys on the perplexity thing for sure, and I am using the shortcut. Although I also have an API route built if you're on an iOS before 15, because you can't load it. And so it ran the tool, got the internet information, old news, and we'll say done. Now it's going to call on.
Are you trying to stream? Are you actually streaming? Oh, yes, you are.
Yeah,
I was just on the wrong thing. All right, cool. We're good.
No, my screen isn't streaming, is it?
No, it was just your camera. So let's see.
Hold on one
gotta
sec.
swap over to your screen.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
That makes a big difference. Telling you versus showing you. Okay. All right, can you see that all right?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, and if you're familiar with shortcuts, the possibilities here are literally endless. Like, yeah, any shortcut you've made now could be called on as a tool, basically. Okay.
Oh my God, Two Dog.
Here we go. Let me just fire up this keyboard so I don't mess up my mic. One moment. Okay. Search web. Is that blog post live?
Yeah, I can see how I can help Modal.
Oh, it's not. Okay.
Oh, is this searching? Yeah. This is historic.
This is so cool.
What the hell?
Okay. So
Ooh,
I told it
the
basically,
shutdown at the end.
Get the top 5 ag stocks, save it to notes, make me a table portfolio document, then make a chart storm. Okay, here we go. Should call on its first tool to start searching the web. Okay, there's the top stocks. It's not going to give us the notification of the tool calls because I'm streaming the screen. So
Mhm.
anyway, it went in, got the information. We got the sources down here. I'm going to let it go on to its next tool. It's probably going to do another search if I had to guess. And it's saving all this to the logs. It saves a memory of everything it does. You can just tell it to search what we did, last week, or you could tell it after this if we didn't like it to go back and redesign this website or go back and look at that package. So now the tools pass the answer back to Farm Friend, and we got the breakdown on the stock info. And now it's going to call upon. I can't remember the order I told. I think I told it to save the notes.
Yep. Yep.
So then it'll save the notes, so we can probably jump over there and see that. Okay, it's kind of frozen right now. Looks like the vision model went off. That's good. Checking the screen.
Model.
Yeah, well, it knows I don't know what it thinks it's checking right now, and that's why it's really unfortunate that I can't see the notifications of the tools it's calling.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we'll just let it go right now, and you're just going to watch like a symphony of actions, and then from there we can work it backwards or just tell it to resume from a certain point. All right, it went spreadsheet, it looks like.
Wow.
So laid down our portfolio and the stock analysis. We have that saved in numbers now.
Holy shit.
Is it still working? Yeah, it's still working. Let's go back and look at one of our deliverables. Nice, nice. I think it gave us a note save. The screen's kind of frozen. It's weird.
We're seeing it okay.
Well, I mean, my note screen is frozen. I'm not really getting my sidebar, so I don't know why that's happening. Anyway, let's see what she's up to. Okay. Looks like I made a website of the chart storm. So here we'll get something of like our on-demand. Well, just one. Not
Whoa.
super impressive. But, it's running probably chart.js. So now what I'm going to do is, it wants to save the file. So this is like save file as. So I'm going to say stock info.html, and it's using URL schemes to like use a local Safari browser schema architecture. It's able to render these charts in JavaScript libraries and save HTML pages. And then I've got PyScript working finally and manipulating the DOM, doing some Openinterpreter-esque things out of an HTML interface and a Pythonista, blah, blah, blah. Let's just continue here. So we're going to save this as stockinfo.html. And again, remember, imagine that these kind of activities are taking place on automations that Openinterpreter is just running. And plus, this agent can be run as an automation if you're familiar with shortcuts. So I hope I'm not too far down in the weeds here.
No, I'm completely with you.
Awesome. So now we're going to save that, and then let's see what it's up to from there. Again, it would normally be dropping down one of those like, oh, it's powering down. Okay. So now what I want to do.
Dude, on.
Hey,
Amazing.
these are the tools I'm working
Nice
with my
work,
Farm
man.
Friend suite right now. And a lot of this, the terminal access, the JavaScript interpreter, the Raspberry Pi terminal access. I've got an IR camera and a Raspberry Pi 5 going with like, what is it called? Nmap, and like getting device IDs and getting hardware IDs to start interconnecting. So I definitely want to talk to you guys much more. I've been really, really busy to get to this point. But anyway, now we're going to tell it to use its memory features it has. We're going to say,
There's more.
oh yeah, well, check this out.
Did you see how many shortcuts there were?
Hey,
Let's
search
do
your
it.
records. We were just working on the chart storm. You only gave me one chart. I want you to go back, get that exact data from the spreadsheet, and then give me a dashboard with at least 4 different amazing visualizations. We'll do that. So now it would be like search records, but we're not going to see that. But it is searching its records. And I believe that the tool logs are on, so it should be showing us what it got from its memory. Otherwise, yeah, so there we go. Understood. Let me revisit that data. So it's calling that here. It got back the stock prices. We'll let it go ahead. And like, I have this in like a verbose, developer mode right now. Otherwise you wouldn't really see this. Again, anything shareable, highlightable from this screen, printable, searchable. So
Wow.
from there, it should be firing chart storm. And this is why I got to get this Gorilla thing figured out, because I want farms to be able to run 1,000% offline. When I had no idea you were dropping this local too. So it's like, this is really crazy timing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, because I feel like there's an action that could be made to just run a shortcut by name, and now we don't even need to worry about function calling. It's just like there's at least the access now to shortcuts. So anyway, it found that step one. It's telling us its breakdown. Definitely took a cue on you guys's, short-term memory sort of thing, and reminding what it's doing. So it's showing us that the tool call. Now it should be running Git clipboard.
Okay, so is it able to call up when it wants to talk to the user? Like, is that what we're seeing when it brings up a little thing? Is it's like, well, I want to name this file now or something like that?
Well, yeah, I told it to save file, and so one of its tools is literally the save file shortcut. And I don't want it I've got it naming reminder events in the kitchen and setting alarms, but it's like I didn't want to waste the resources on that one. I feel like the user wants control to manage their actual file system.
Right.
But I can have it say, like, check this out. Get the stock spreadsheet we just made so we can spreadsheet we just made so we can talk about it, blah blah blah. It's like an automatic chat with anything you've made or any sort of file you want to get into it. It's got the ability to, like, say, write a file and then put information in and then update it. And so I've got some inventory related things to, like, kitchen, pantry, farm equipment, fertilizer amounts that self-update, and then definitely working hard on, like, this self-hierarchical evaluation of skills and then saving those snippets. And with the logs I have going that compress every night at like 11:55 but are time stamped, and then there's a full log that, like, drops down every month, and I may have to move that to each week. It's capable of I'm really sorry I get so chatty. It's capable of accessing those files and just bringing them into context and replacing itself, or like creating a persona to be this expert and then loading it in as a tool to the system message for that period of time and then taking it out, but even internet research to create that quote unquote persona. I don't know if I'm, like, getting diminishing returns there though, and if that's even necessary, just realizing how capable some of these models are. So anyway, let me be quiet and actually shoot this off. And then if you got any questions or requests, I'd love to show you or, take some challenges on it. But I want to get this going. And like I said, I want to connect this underlying schema and skeletal system to a package we can all build with on Macintoshes and devices, because then with URL schemes, URI schemes, and X callbacks, you in a local network for sure, you can, like, be triggering these shortcuts literally on your phone from Openinterpreter, deciding to do it on the Mac. And then with the web tunnel things you guys have done, I mean, I'm thinking there's something there also.
Definitely.
Okay, I'll be quiet. Thanks for checking this out.
Dude, dog, that was awesome. And you gotta go back through the chat. You're getting all the love. 2 GOG speed.
So this is where we, like, select any file now. So I'll go into stock info. And I don't know what that was about or why it did that. Maybe I selected it. Okay. Yeah, let's try that again.
With regard to the gorilla thing, I don't know. I didn't water the plant for the relationship, but I've talked to Shishir a couple of times. So if you have like questions about how the open functions works and all that, I might be able to pipe something over to him.
Awesome. I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, hey, let me just pause this. I'm going to start getting way more demos up. I've got some things here with, like, recording voice memos as a breeder, because I breed a lot of medicinal plants, and it allows me to now just go back in and get, like, charts out of my own data and find, outliers and visual representations. I have to go show you guys the Python thing, because, yeah, we're all about Python here.
I think even too is the logs. Like if you wanted, like, just to pull up, like, literally it doing the last thing, kind of seeing if there's a way to see what the tool call kind of hierarchy, like, I'm very fascinated by this. This is insane too, dog. You're cooking on this. Do you think there's a way too that, like, I've seen some apps, like I think one sec is an app I've had that, like, comes with shortcuts. Can you imagine, like, these shortcuts being bundled into an app, and then there being a way that then those could be called, because that would be ideal, is if I could download this on my phone. That's been the only thing about shortcuts, is how portable are there, but you're saying maybe there's a way to do it even on Mac too?
Well, I've got something up my sleeve. Let me just show you this first, though. These are the tool logs going back in May.
It's actually, it canceled the screen share for me. I don't know if anybody else has that. Do you all I've
Yeah,
Yeah, I
actually
don't
seen
see it. I don't see it.
Yeah, I just unshared Two Dog.
Copy. One moment.
Yeah, it might be time for a Hackintosh, honestly. Like, I got Google Assistant, but it very much feels like off-brand, you know?
Yeah.
Not
Is it
quite
back on?
there.
Oh, and
Yep.
Crikey just put in something too, super interesting. Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
okay.
for me?
Let's do it, Two Dog.
All right, so these are the actual tool logs that the agent itself is passing to the different tools, like make a website or, plot the Python and so forth. And so I can go back and get those through timestamps. And like I said, it's going back to May 31st. And all I've been doing is A/B testing and dialing shit in. So, I mean, blah, blah, blah. Happy to just totally send you one of these so you can get a good look at it. And then the other part of this whole symphony is the actual tool list itself, which is just straight out of OpenAI schema. And it's a freaking nightmare to edit. I got a shortcut. I'm like 95% done with it. I'll just move dictionary entry by dictionary entry, but I just got into all this stuff like last March. So dictionaries are still a little out of my realm, but I've been using the Cherry Lang, and I've got shortcuts now that can basically, and that's another thing. I got shortcuts that can basically write shortcuts, but I need to learn how to work with some of these packages and make actions so I can go contribute to the guys that are making the IDEs that are able to write shortcuts, because I can get all the HTML information out of a shortcut on the fly. I can sign that with a shell command locally or use a couple different web browsers through Routine Hub and then create shortcuts literally. So it's like it can get many levels of the octopi. So the other side of this is it all just kind of happened in the last couple of weeks when I started building a Flash server to authenticate my shortcuts for the farm friend part that I'm trying to, use as something of a way to survive a little bit, because I've moved so far into this now from farming and so forth into developing the software. Anyway, the point is, this is now a version of, let's say, the closest thing I've come up with to Openinterpreter running on an iPhone, and this is out of Pythonista. And so disregard the API keys. I know no one will mess with them, but they'll be dead, I'm sure, blah, blah, blah. This is the same sort of idea of, short-term memory and recap the steps and do not forget, and also ask for permission so we're not going crazy. It's basically manipulating the DOM in the user interface instead of being able to say run Python code, because I cannot. I've even tried running URL schemes over to Pyto from Pythonista. It's just not happening.
Yeah.
So now with that check screen tool I did, because one thing at a time. So the tools here we have, one's just the Perplexity AI search, literally using the API route. Another one's Document Master. Now this is literally an iOS shortcut named Document Master that makes all this shit, opens it in Notes or Bear. I'm able to call on these tools now from this user interface, from this Python script on an iDevice, and I'm able to say, search the web and get me the top 5 performing tech stocks today, and then give me a stock trading portfolio document. Okay, so I haven't plugged all the tools you guys saw in shortcuts into this because the shortcuts is my main focus right now. But after I finally got this working, I was like, well, I have to build this whole thing in Python, because now just with URL schemes, I'm almost skipping outside of shortcuts and just having direct URL schemes, deep linking into further levels of native iOS stuff.
Okay, so just again, so that's the idea that you can actually trigger a shortcut from this is
Yes.
possible URL schemes. Okay.
Here we
Okay.
go right now. When I say the word document, I should get its attention. It's not a wake word. It's definitely a actual tool, which is called Document Master, and the actual schema then is okay. This is what's going on here. We're actually calling a URL scheme, and that shortcut is right here, is a part of the Farm Friends suite called Document Master. There's so many, I just see blue. It gets crazy. There we go. Okay, so when I come over here now, and that's what I said, I just kind of got into this. I haven't really earned the right to totally play with this because I put so much time into shortcuts. I want to get that done before I move it all over to this now under mode. And then, spoiler alert, I have this running on a single file HTML page as well that I can trigger from a shortcut create like a self-deterministic user interface, blah, blah, blah. It's really exciting. So
Wow.
we'll actually tell it to make the document now. We'll go back over here to the user interface, and it should trigger document master, and then it should tell us that it used it. There we go.
Yep.
It
Okay.
had already passed the input. I went through a bunch of crap, like getting it to not.
Nice. Nice. Oh,
Input,
that looks
so-
gorgeous.
So yeah, it's like basically, because I'm gonna stop now and I'll just keep coming in more often and getting more demos up. But it's like I've got the Raspberry Pi going to shortcuts, shortcuts going to Raspberry Pi, 01 going to the desktop, the 01 app going to the desktop, Openinterpreter on the Pi, shortcuts able to put in commands into the terminal on the Raspberry Pi and interact with Olama or Openinterpreter. And then all these interactions you see within this, which also work on Mac, but I can't use the same URL schemes. I actually have to like save as HTML file and then open it, but I can do that with shortcut actions. So if anybody's all about this stuff, please start reaching out. I would love to share some of the skeletal system and start really making this insane, because we don't need to wait for Apple's announcement on Tuesday. And I'll just say this too. I would normally never do this, but man, I've had my head down doing this hard. And it's like, I'm probably going to put up some really amazing demos in the next few days. And I would love to just spoil a little bit of Apple's shine. And so any public outreach to launch the shit out of these demos, much appreciated. Okay. I love you guys.
Let's pull an OpenAI, baby.
True God.
Accept an
OG.
open source. Well done.
We got
Shit's insane.
all right,
Sick.
let someone else go, but thank you so much for checking that out. I'm like beyond excited.
Man, you got us that excited.
Yes, yeah, no, that was insanely energizing and super impressive. I think I need to know. Okay, so when it was run iOS shortcut, like that code, it was literally like that was Python, and was it Pythonista? Is that what you said? That was like just triggering a URL. Like that's because it feels like if that can be the fundamental unit that's in here. Yeah, I would love to even like if you feel comfortable with it, to open up some of these like and look into it, because I'm like this completely
I want to powwow.
love what it is that everything that everybody's building is capable of doing, for you to be sharing kind of your shortcut wisdom.
Yeah, well, it is running URL schemes and deep links. Now, I have started to incorporate X callbacks, because Python, basically like say I keep working on system prompts for like specialists in these exact fields with like, a few shot examples of the actual URL schemes, or like running an open API call with one Perplexity API search is like the basis that is going to be, the core of everything. So I don't know if it says run iOS shortcut. It probably did if you saw that. I'm used to seeing a more like, let me show you this really quick. I'm going to single fire one tool that will make a website, but it'll show you the URL scheme in its full print and how this actually works. Because like I said, with TypeScript and like Pyodide, there's something there that could be done even more, I think, than what I'm doing. But if I were to take what I've called Farm Friend Interpreter, which is literally just an HTML interpreter now, and literally just like creates a single file HTML page, like you can do it. I want all the fucking script and all the CSS and all the HTML right there. I want to know nothing but ready to preview, and I still do some parsing and some find and replaces. But basically, we're going to say, make me a really awesome Python Hall of Fame hacker style web page with some animations and the right kind of imagery.
How does it think about imagery?
Well, I mean, it's running GPT 4.0 right now. Right now, Workhorse is an API call that's like going to take the instruction of this actual shortcut is literally just you follow instructions precisely. But here is one of the system prompts that I'm working with different examples and so forth for just that tool. Plus, this tool has a fucking brand. Now, Unsplash has been giving me issues.
Yeah.
So I should just do this too, since I'm back in there. We'll just say, hey, I want you to check the screen and make this website way better. Make sure there are background video and Unsplash images.
Don't.
I don't know. We're getting to the point where we need to start saying please. I feel.
Hold on, it went ham. I want you to check this screen and make this website way better. Make sure that you include background images. Maybe give us a little console we can put some code into. Okay. We should see the screen flash. There we go. Okay. Normally, like I said, it announces everything, and I've got different if-then statements throughout the shortcuts where you can like see the tool logs or not, or you know. So there's its analysis. It fired that screenshot. Now it's going to pass the description back to itself.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so it's taking a screenshot with a shortcut. Is that true?
Yeah, and there's a shortcut action in the shortcuts library, literally called take screenshot. There's also a strip OCR. And then I'm taking the screenshot though and converting it to base 64, sending it on a 4.0 request. So here's its breakdown. Now it's got its plan of what it's going to do to create the better structure. So it'll pass that to its tool. And even though I'm really focusing on making the handoff of the arguments to the tool, like, oh, what are you doing? Use your analysis and make the website better. Okay, I knew it. Yeah, there's something weird going on in one handoff. So now again, I want you to grab the clipboard and get the HTML code for the website you were going to make. If it's not there, then search your records and pick up where you left off.
Wow.
I learned from the best. You guys got me spoiled. I just wouldn't give up. I was like, man.
Please. Oh my God, this is incredible.
So here's the breakdown of what it's pulling out of its records just for the record. That's the actual handoff it passed to the tool last time. So now it's getting that back in its brain. Now it should just be firing interpreter realistically. But I have a feeling it's like going to come back and announce. Well, I don't know about announce. It's weird. The user interface is the main moat on this shit. And it's like at the end, oh no, there we go. You're amazing. Thank you, interpreter.
Nice.
Oh, the suspense is killing me. But yeah, got stuff to run Python, got stuff running in Scriptable, got stuff running to A shell, search the records. Okay, one more time, and then grab the HTML code from your clipboard and make a website with it now.
That was fast. Did it pull it?
Well,
I mean, I guess it emitted it out of its clipboard.
Yeah, it's not AI. You know what I mean? I'm using as many native functions, just like keyword searches in the Notes app, and then reducing things down from there, and then using those timestamps. And this is the newest layering of what I'm doing is this sort of resource management and trying to use as many local resources, because that's why I like shortcuts. You know, it's like I know that I could build stuff now to like set contextual responses with as little exact personal information as I want, parse that out until the response comes back in, and then put highly sensitive information back on the inside.
Holy shit. Okay, so just to be clear, you just asked for a website, it had a broken image, and you said, look at my screen and make me a better website. And it looked at your screenshot and beamed it out, made you a better website, and now we're looking at it. And it added a console too, which you asked for.
Yeah. Now, it's not working, but because we made it this far, I got to just show you kind of like, I feel like one of the craziest things you guys will appreciate. And then I will turn more on soon.
And it did it on an iPad, which is even crazier.
That is, yeah.
Run on iPhone. And like I said, I haven't taken the time to convert some of the differences between Mac and iOS devices it takes for like opening the file versus having to run the local browser thing with Safari to make it open. But I can do all this on Mac. So I just have to take the time. I'm just like, it's been a really, really busy time. I got my back against the wall in some different areas and some farm properties moving around and like sort of like getting into more of a building mode again. So I'm pretty excited about it.
We got any Android devs in the house? Let's see if we can catch up to our friend with shortcuts over here. See if we can make a counterpart.
We have to. It's open source OS.
But yeah.
But it's the open source OS. We have to. We can't let the Apple guys have this.
We can build it.
Okay, really quick. I have a feeling we'll have success. Now I have a demo up on my. If you dig around on my stuff on Twitter and here in fellow links, there's a demo I did where I go out to my garden and I take a picture, and basically because it knows location and all this context about my farm and the USD agricultural zone and the weather forecast and historical data and all these things, it basically schedules me like a 17 event calendar over the course like 2 months to get everything ready to plant in it. And I've been working on some really, really useful agricultural shit. So some of this though, we're like building the tools along the way to build. And then I said I got into this like disposable software you can just run in Safari on a file with your own data locally. It's like, why would you be? So I'm like, well, that seems like a useful tool. So anyway, we'll go to this AI dev tool and we will say, make me a generative AI app that will take in the subject of a agricultural system and give me images and lessons for children. Give me at least 4 images in a grid style per image. And then make sure the text is colorful and whatnot. Use the OpenAI API references you have in your system message.
Oh, I love that.
Now, I don't want to have to say that much. And that's why I said I had to like prove I could get all this architecture going. Now I get to kind of trip out, if you will, and play with words for a while again. So I think I'll be able to make this more user friendly in the long run.
Okay, while this is cooking, does anybody know does Android have a shortcuts thing?
Yes.
Well, yeah, so we have the thing that I'm aware of is the Google Assistant API, but it's not as robust as shortcuts.
Yeah.
But I could be mistaken. I'm not an Android dev.
There is something called Automator. There is something called Macro Droid. And there is something called Tasker. And those are the 3 closest things. But to be honest, they're still a million miles away from what shortcuts is in terms of the encryption and the hard-coded aspects. But I know that's what we don't love in open source. But it couldn't really get much more open source than shortcuts in a way, because you just get under the hood. So fermentation for fertilizers. And this should make some images. It's got a little button there to generate farm friend Bowdy.
No way.
Yeah, I don't see a loading indicator, so I feel like it wants an API key, even though it has it.
Whoa! Did you make a shortcut that gets you the HTML of the page? Yeah. That's so sick.
No, that's the thing. I realized like just the other day, I need to tell it to check screen, then get HTML, and then, of course, duh, like what am I doing here? So I just started using recursion of the same shortcut in the same shortcut also, which has been a game changer, but I'm having to work some of my handoffs backwards from there.
Also, sorry, Two Dog, I'm seeing your API key, so you might want to revoke that one.
Copy. Yeah, they'll be dead here shortly.
Awesome.
I appreciate that.
We're all family here, and none of us would do no shit.
Yeah, I would hope not, but I'll still,
Streamed on Twitter.
Oh, good point. Thank you. No, good call, dude. Anyway, let me give it one more attempt at this.
I like it just to surface Crikey's.
I want you to search your records of the generative AI tool you just made, get the code, check it line by line. There's nothing's happening when I'm pressing the submit button. I want you to fix it, and then I want you to remake the AI tool.
Okay, so you've just built like GitHub issues and a programmer system inside shortcuts. Like you've like literally you just submitted like an issue into your own app that you just made.
I think so, man. And the other part of this is I'm talking about Octopi on Octopi. Well, then we take it to more Octopi. It's like if we get these actions going where Openinterpreter can just start running systems like this. Well, on top of that, you can have it start text messaging and emailing and triggering other iOS devices, which I've started playing with then, and giving sub assignments and like parsing out resources and like using local LLMs here and blah, blah, blah. I've got this thing running on different Anthropic models. It's wild. Anyway, it got the information. And no, it did not. That is not acceptable on last attempt.
By the way, James, do you want to come up?
Get the actual code. from your records, remake the AI tool. There we go.
Okay, here, and after this, I'm bringing up James too, who might have some thoughts on Android and beyond.
Ward, well, I'm going to wrap it there. I really appreciate you giving me that much time. I've been wanting to show you guys this for so long. It means a lot to me. So I will be around.
This is amazing. I never ever dreamed that shortcuts could go beyond like I was so fascinated by shortcuts, and we talked about this at like the first or second house party or something. And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna cook on this, and now here we are, and you've literally built out like I don't know how much farther you would really need to go to get like a general assistant across everything like this, and if you were to be sharing this and like doing this as you've been doing out in the open, there's so much incredible things that we can build on the shortcuts infrastructure as you have thought of it. I can't, my memory from you showing like the early version of this to the early OI community, like back in September or November, is that you said that you like weren't a programmer. Is that true? Did you say that back then?
I did, man, but I've been really lucky to work from home with plants for a long time, and I had a lot. I mean, I kind of got manic with this shit for a while. So when you guys released Openinterpreter, I was already on like, I got lucky. I just applied for an API key one night, got it the next morning for GPT-4, and it kind of just led from there. So it's been, my screen time is like hurting my immune system. Not really. I'm healthy as hell and super excited to get out of bed, but I'm like going 18 hours a day, and yeah, it's just been learning and making shortcuts to learn and voice teachers, and yeah, it's been insane. I'm really excited. I'm thinking in systems, to say the least, and you guys definitely got me like moving. You said the word farming IoT sensors one night in like one of the first things. I was like talking about, man, you just made like the app. It's like it could be everything or whatever, and it's like, yeah, I can't tell you how much that had an impact. Wild stuff, man. Super amazing thing.
Incredible. I'm like, I'm gonna hop off this and get into shortcuts. Like that was so fucking inspiring. To
Yeah.
God. The
Well, we can
base.
powwow anytime. You just holler. I'm here.
Oh my God, I'd love to. Okay, that was so cool. Yeah, and the fact that too, like that, you say you're not a programmer, but it's like clearly, yeah, you're thinking in systems. And wow, that's seriously, you just like absolutely blew my mind about what we could be building. Great work. Great work, man.
Thank you.
Wow.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, like, stick to being a farmer, I guess, if this is being a farmer for you. It's fantastic.
Hell yeah.
Holy shit.
Well, yeah, what's James been up to, man? I would love to hear more what everyone else has been up to. I know it's getting...
Yeah, so James, and you just threw into the chat too some ideas about Android and what's happening, and also James deeply involved too in the O1 and is the reason why that thing looks as good as it does and far more. But yeah, James, what have you been up to? I think the audio is muted.
Yeah, I'm not hearing him.
Yep.
Everyone, he says 1 sec.
No, it's a hardware thing, man.
And by the way, I posted it earlier, but just this is, if
go follow Two Dog. It's in the chat.
Follow. If Two Dog is saying that he's gonna be posting demos of what we all just saw on Twitter and just needs us to be kind of pushing it, let's push it. An OG.
Man, Two Dog is making me rethink my life.
Right, dude? I should have been farming this whole time. Like, I don't know what I was doing, like going to coding boot camp and shit. Okay.
I don't know. I was consuming farmables instead of farming them. Maybe that was the issue.
You might check your Discord settings as well. Like if you're sure your hardware is right, make sure your voice and video on Discord are set to the correct device.
And if you're on Zoom or Meet, just close those tabs. I guess. Oh man, that's awesome. I never thought that Apple would be the one doing this, man. Like the first demo we'd see of this would be on an iPhone.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly,
Things.
like Apple's way, we were just talking about it in chat. Apple's way ahead on accessibility. Like they're because all like their native options for doing things like, like controlling your computer with your voice or like having your screen read to you, all these things that were like accessibility oriented are great when like the thing that we're trying to grant access to now is a language model. Um, so
But
like
the frustrating thing about Apple is that yes, it is more accessible in terms of technology, but it's just a lot more expensive, which makes it not as accessible.
yeah, no,
That's my only beef with that with Apple is that they have all these amazing features at such high price point.
yeah, I don't think Apple
Um,
is very accessible at all, but they have great accessibility features. Like,
like truly.
Yeah, it is interesting, and it's been a lot of honestly influencing our development of like everybody knows this, but we've been cooking on a proper accessible open interpreter desktop app, which is meant to be like the best experience of at least this code running interpreter and some of the cool skills stuff that the O1 has. And we were like, okay, it could be a Mac app. We could just do it as a Mac app. There are
We can hear you, I think, Shinyato. James.
Oh yeah,
Testing. Can you
yeah,
hear
we
me?
got you now.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
on.
Yes, loud and
kind of amazing.
The
Just quickly,
irony is, I don't know how I could follow that. Like, you want me to talk after him? That's kind of humbling. Anyway, don't want to interrupt. What were you saying, Killian?
oh yeah, no, just to quickly round out that we were like, it is critical, and honestly, going through the O1 project, seeing how critical it was to have Windows support. That you don't get this. It's not you're not really being accessible if you need to pay thousands of dollars for a Mac to use it. There are parts of the world where you go for hundreds of miles around and nobody is using a Mac. A lot of us use Macs if we're in the U.S. and if we have like tech jobs or are around that. That's not the case everywhere. Windows absolutely is like it needs to work on Windows if you're going to say that it's accessible. It should really work on Linux and
Well, I
Android.
think it
if you're
really
gonna
needs to work on Android
We're
because
working
there's
on that here, actually.
yeah, like
I'm not a Mac guy at all, and I
Mhm.
won't be. I do CAD for a living, and it's just not an option. Windows is secondary. Right now, we're focusing on Linux, but we are trying to get a nice, free, lightweight build that's like integral to Ubuntu. We've been working on that kind of for the past week. Got a little bit of progress, not a whole lot yet. Got it running, but yeah, you were asking about Android. We do have it fairly consistently running ADB shell commands and doing whatever the hell we want inside an Android device. Yeah.
good
Some I work with some InfoSec companies, and we're gonna see what kind of fun we can have making like basically a root-o-matic. I
Yeah.
want to try to get it to flash Kali Linux to an old Nexus. That's going to be one of the first
hell
projects.
yeah, that sounds fun.
Oh,
We were talking about it in
yeah.
chat.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say we were talking about it in chat, but I think it would be really cool to make I don't know what the word for it is, but like when you root your phone, whatever that is called, like one of those that's oriented around like voice controls in the O1 server and like this kind of new
That's
sort of
the
computing
long-term
paradigm.
goal is
Yeah.
I want to first I want to get reliable, repeatable behavior in Linux. And once, because that'll be relatively easy to adapt to Android. I'm not an Android developer. I'm not a coder. But you don't really have to be
Neither is Two
anymore.
Dog.
Zorkon is a coder, and he's my son. He's a very good one. And I mean, I used to. Anyway, I used to do a lot of coding, but it's been like 15 years since I've done much. But currently, we are. I'm amazed. I want to talk to Two Dogs actually. Currently, we are working on getting this to run in Linux. Next, we'll be getting it to run locally in Linux, seeing what the actual limitations are, and getting a really nice, lightweight, stripped down version of Ubuntu to run on Raspberry Pi. Emil's involved in that. So is Mike W. He's not here this evening, I don't think. But yeah, we're having some pretty good success with that. Um, right now, the big thing is, and I really want to talk to Two Dogs about what he's done, is just getting consistent behavior and keeping it from getting stuck in loops and stuff like that. So we're thinking um, we're going to build some RAG into it in Linux, and we can kind of make specialized assistance, for people's applications. Actually, I'll have some demos in probably a month. We'll show it doing some cool stuff on Raspberry Pi. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's got any questions about ADB on Android. I'll answer what I can.
Even the basics. Okay, ADB. What is ADB?
Okay, so an ADB shell is basically like your Android kind of super user PowerShell. Like if you're doing anything on Android, you take the phone, you enable USB debugging, and now your computer can, get at the code and do what it likes. Um, the nice thing about Android is like it's a Linux kernel. Once you get in there, you can make any Android phone into a little Ubuntu desktop pretty easily, or do whatever you want with it. Like it would be very conceivable to like run Openinterpreter at root and just give it a phone as its appendage, essentially. Android is really, really, really flexible compared to like doing anything with an iPhone as far as
Yeah,
coding goes, like kind of dangerously so. Um,
like that.
but yeah. Yeah, so ADB shells just, and Android development, I forget what the B is, but yeah, it's just, how you code an Android,
Yeah.
how you actually push code to a phone. So
I
like through ADB, we could take it, like unlock the bootloaders. We can auto detect the type of phone, go ahead and unlock the bootloaders, install Openinterpreter at root, and kind of just let it do what it wants. That's kind of what I want. See what happens. If it breaks a phone, it breaks a phone.
I think that's like it's kind of crazy. Like if that starts working consistently, then like like you could feasibly like airdrop the entire population of Venezuela like a $5 Android phone that you bought in bulk that comes with
Well,
the open
exactly. I
interpreter.
mean,
Yeah.
you bring that up, but like I worked on a project a few years back where we were putting these little internet caching devices on Raspberry Pis for North Korea. And
Oh,
basically, it was a pretty simple device. It was on the little Pi Zeros. And it was a pretty simple device. What it would do is you'd cache all the internet that you found interesting that you thought might be useful to somebody in North Korea, tie it to a balloon and get it in North Korea with some instructions, or get somebody to get them in there. And anytime these devices got near another
Oh, and
device
like a
and you
mesh?
held a button on the outside, yeah, it was like a
Hell
sneaker
yeah.
net. They would just exchange caches. So you could exchange like 2 or 3 gigs of HTML files
Dude,
or
that
whatever.
sounds
And
so
it's a
fun.
way
I just
my
want to like do
God.
that for fun. Like we should
I
people
did
should
the
just
simple
start doing
stuff. I just designed the
it.
plastic. Like the guy
How
who
did that
actually
go?
was the
How did
brains
that,
behind it is incredible. What's
did,
that?
did it work out? Were there folks in
You
North
have
Korea?
no way of knowing.
Yeah,
That's the
right.
That's
thing.
the point,
It's like you
right?
throw them in a hole and you think it's doing something, but you don't know. Like
Yeah,
occasionally you'll hear like I mean, it's kind of a one-way thing. It's like nobody's
But
gonna
it'd be,
get a message back out to you.
yeah.
but it would be interesting to think of like places that like are hit by as like an emergency thing, right? Like if you're kind of hit by an earthquake or by solar flares or in
Okay,
Yeah.
if
Lebanon,
you
no
could get a
electricity,
really cheap Android device
which
that
we
is
can.
yeah, that you can drop out of an airplane or
Exactly.
off of a
Yeah.
drone or something like
Mhm.
that with an AI on it, and you can scatter these in a disaster area, or you can get a bunch of them into North Korea or something like that. I mean, like just internet access is, you know, a big deal. It's like, imagine
Yeah.
being able to like ask, you know, some open source language model questions about what the hell's going on outside, you know?
Yeah.
That and like if you just or like for me, like I want something like that because like I don't want to be connected to the cloud at some point. Like I want a little mesh network I can carry
Yeah.
around for shit with my homies, you know? Like where I
Yeah,
can just
yeah,
sort of
exactly.
swap stuff.
You want to be able to kind of sever your own little
Yeah,
island of
yeah,
internet off of the
exactly.
grid, you know?
Isn't there's a kind of protocol that
That's
has
awesome.
miles of like range, right? It's like low.
Laura,
Laura.
Mike
Yeah.
W. I don't know if he's showed it off yet, but he built these walkie-talkies. So he got Open Interpreter running on a Raspberry Pi. And he's built these cool ass walkie-talkies. It's got some freaking 12-mile range or something like that, and he can talk
Shit, yeah.
to Open Interpreter running on a Raspberry Pi like when he's out
God.
like doing his thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Oh,
amazing.
bro.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
there's
crazy.
yeah, Meshtastic. It's in the chat. That's like what like I knew a little bit about this stuff. He knows a lot more about it. So don't ask me questions about that because I'll try and BS my way through it and be wrong. But
I have a question. Can't you, in theory, put in run Android on a Raspberry Pi? Not just in theory, in
yeah,
practice.
yeah, totally. Yeah, you can totally run Android on Raspberry Pi. You can run now on the Pi 5s, you can actually run Windows on them.
Yeah, Windows
But
11, which seems counterintuitive.
Can I ask a
like
question?
I wasn't yeah.
No, go ahead if you had something for
No, go ahead.
to you or to anybody who's here. So something that we have like, you know, and I think in the early days too, just like dreamed up about this together is like, you know, and maybe now it's time to start really taking this seriously and start to get folks together on it. I mean, it sounds like you've already been doing that, James, too, with this, but would be a ROM. I think that's the right word for what
Yes.
the version of this is. And I mean, you know, there's this dream even too of like if there was an Android ROM that was an O1 and it had ideally something like the ideal would be something like a llama file that had a very small language model, maybe the one that we're going to be training as a part of the local 2, as absolutely small as possible. But maybe it needs to connect to the internet, and that's fine. Android phones are, you know, they're the smallest possible microphone, button, speaker, internet connecting devices, cheapest possible in the world. So even if it is over the internet, it's still valuable. And there would be a ROM. And I kind of dream too, like, you know, we have the light, and I've heard always that like kind of flashing is how you do this thing. Is like you flash a thing, and it's gonna be called flashing the light. That it would be taking one of the
Now
Android
that's
phones,
interesting.
and I hook it up, and I flash it now with this ROM.
That's the long-term goal. We're a ways from that. Like I said, I'm not an Android developer, but a lot of like my friends are. And kind of unfortunately, like the golden age of root has kind of ended, or it'd be really like easy to find a bunch of people to work on this. Like a lot of that development settled down, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But
And prepare
it's the long-term goal. It's the long-term goal. We're working on, and I've mentioned this to Ben knows about this a little bit. Emil knows. I've talked to Emil a bunch about this. We're working on basically getting a Raspberry Pi AI development kit based on Open Interpreter, and we've got a couple of use cases. The first is accessibility, to make like a desktop accessibility assistant. That's what Emil's mostly involved in. The second is for industry. It's like right now I'm working on getting it to program microcontrollers, stuff like that, so engineers can just go, you know, here's the sensors. Hey, hold up the sensor to the camera. Tell me what this sensor is. It download the drivers, all that stuff, and you know you can start because all the like hardware development happens on Arduino and on Raspberry Pi nowadays, right? So we can get hardware development, and I will keep this short because I can jump up on a soapbox for hours if you let me on this stuff. But so we can. That's the other. It's like the maker DIY / industrial assistant. The next one is we kind of want to make a little like Van Neumann machine. Like, what would be really nice is to get like a build of Android running on a Raspberry Pi. It wouldn't have to be a build of Android, it could be anything, but it could replicate itself onto Android phones. And if you do it properly, once you kind of bootstrap, you can use USB-C, and you can plug phones together, and you can flash their ROM onto your phone, and you can just daisy chain it along, all of it with AIs, and like that's kind of like the dream, the
Yeah.
long-term goal. That'd be a whole lot of fun.
So incredible.
And the Raspberry Pi development kit basically is, because it's just smart enough to do this stuff
Mhm,
with an
mhm.
AI behind it, but stupid enough to be affordable, like to where we can probably keep the price point down, like, because we want to open source all this, but it's like if I got to pay for Raspberry Pis and hardware and stuff like that. So we're going to try to do something as absolutely bare bones cheap as possible.
Yeah.
And just get a tool out there in people's hands. See what happens. And
Yeah.
then the other application is we wanted to build a little basically the open interpreter equivalent of a Wi-Fi pineapple, a pen testing kit for InfoSec.
Nice.
That
Nice.
honestly though, it's a little intimidating how quickly how quickly this thing can assess everything on your network and find
Yeah.
exploits.
Mhm.
It's really disturbing. It's like it's kind of like maybe we don't film those demos.
I mean, they're coming one way or the other. Either you're filming them
Yeah,
in
I
good
know
faith,
it. I
or
know it. It's
they're
better get
happening.
it into the light, And I mean that's the whole point of open source, right? But yeah,
Let's
that's still
yeah,
a little scary.
it is. And I want to say even too is just like, you know, and if anybody has played too or thought about, I think it's called White Rabbit or something, which is these are LLMs that are actually trained on trying to find exploits and to think about this. I think it is a
Mhm.
responsibility of this project, and we have a lot of like, you know, it is a responsibility of what we're doing to try to think about how to combat that. A nightmare scenario is like a 1 billion parameter or some very small language model that has the explicit goal of self-replication and has access to an interpreter. And we're building like what could be the foundation of some very unsafe
Yeah.
viruses, essentially.
Yeah,
And
that's like a rat on steroids, man.
yeah, so
Yeah,
I
we're
think
gonna keep our little von Neumann machine self-replicator as as a user like you'll have to do something physical. Like we don't want to really go beyond
that
that point.
that
But
is
unfortunately, that's a barrier to the honest.
But
I mean,
yeah.
somebody was
tell that to the AI, James.
yeah. yeah, exactly. Exactly. But like
I'm not really worried about humans in this
yeah,
situation.
but honestly though, like all jokes aside, like it's going to happen, and it's either going to come and it's going to happen, and it's either going to come from private industry, or it's going to come from open source, or it's going to come from somewhere. um the only thing we can do is try and open source the hell out of every possible variant
Yeah.
of every way this could
And though to be
look at it.
literally like, I think we need to explicitly be trying to figure out how to solve it. So like
Yeah.
like I mean that, for example,
Proactively, very much so.
one of the things that can be done once we have a shitty version of the system running and that is capable of self-replication is that we as a community should be investing in what does it look like to have a system that detects these kinds of systems, maybe even has a similar kind of architecture too, of actually like chasing them down and being able to do stuff. Like, I know this sounds like sci-fi,
Yeah.
but honestly, this
Well, I
is
was
fun
thinking like a generative
about.
adversarial network type of structure. Like, say
Mhm,
you make a self-replicating bot on a closed air-gap network,
mhm.
and now you have a variant of it whose goal is explicitly to combat it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like I don't know if you guys remember this website called Hack This Site. Like I think it's like 15
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
You
remember
know,
that.
maybe even longer. God. But yeah. But it would be interesting to just experiment with this kind of stuff. I'm sure that it's already being done. I don't know like how public it is, but you got to think it's being done somehow. So definitely, you know, like when's the Kali AI version going to come out? You know,
Yeah.
Yeah,
it seems we're working on it right now, James. But
But yeah,
Well, I suspect it already has to some extent because some of my clients are in information security, and it's definitely on their radar. I think right now it's kind of still a lot of like script kiddie level, like
yeah, that's
Russian
what I've been getting.
gangsters,
Yeah.
like, but like it's. I mean, there's no way it's
I
not
mean,
going to
it
happen.
it can
There's just
run
no way it's not
Metasploit.
going to happen.
Like it definitely can do that. So
Yeah.
well, but look at what happened in the open source store, for example, right? Like I think the open source can still, you know, muscle its way into protection. You know,
I
as
think
it did
open
with
source is kind of the
the
only.
Onion network. Yeah, you
I
know.
think open source is kind of the only chance we've got, to be honest with you.
agree.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not an AI doomer at all, but
No,
I mean, what's the alternative? You know, I think it'll all turn out well. I'm an optimist, but don't do it, and it happens anyway, and the open source community is completely unprepared, and then what? The government's like, oh, don't worry, we can protect you from the big bad AI. Just let us install this on your phone.
No, we need to do it
that's
together.
that's what's happening here,
Yeah.
where I live. You know.
Yeah,
so
you're in Dubai. Yeah.
It's
I
a
have no
very
idea if you're
safe,
watching your screen, so we love
benevolent.
you, Dubai. You're awesome.
It's a very safe, benevolent country that I love very, very much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How's the weather over there? Hot, huh?
I
Change the
think we can
subject.
imagine just like literal practical things too to do would be to try to, you know, have kind of the dumbest version of this stuff. I mean, this even too is a little bit like the thinking of super alignment, but we don't need to get to super intelligent systems to get viruses powered by language models that are extremely dangerous. So it's probably worth taking some cues from that and thinking about how to, like, just as you suggested, James, too. I mean, if we had a very dumb version of the system that we could just be thinking about and containing it, and then thinking about what is an adversary to that that could then be deployed. And I don't know. I mean, is the solution for it to be as intelligent as that other one? Are there simpler methods here of containerization? This is InfoSec people that need to be involved with this, but ideally there are some very smart InfoSec people we can start to rally around the idea of this is coming.
Why do I have a feeling that the reason the whole kerfuffle at OpenAI has something to do with this? In regards to like the warnings, like if you have an AI that can hack anything, and you know, like it doesn't even need to be that intelligent, but if it can hack anything, and you know, someone's sitting on it and trying to put guardrails and releasing it, you know, that would scare the living shit out of me if I was working on something like that. But hey, at least we're talking about it. We still can.
Yeah.
We can do something.
Yep. Okay, quickly too, by the way, just because I saw it in chat and it's worth bringing attention to. Kai said, could I use my Apple Watch to remote and speak into to navigate my PC using O1? Mike, do you know where that there are those guys who added as a hackathon got the O1 running on an Apple Watch, and actually what they were doing was I think they were just beaming in from like Siri's actual just speech to text, and I think it went into a shortcut which then beamed the text into a version of O1 that was just taking text. Ultra
Yeah,
simple.
let me grab it from the X community. We shared it there.
Okay, sick.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
Lorenzi. He was here earlier, actually.
nice.
All right.
Nice. Yeah, that was extraordinary. This is like one of the coolest things I've seen, and it kind of plays into what Two Dog was saying. Was that like, okay, this is just just be using shortcuts. Another thing I want to get in real quick, because we were just talking about these ideas of Android security. Let's make some new channels real quick. I think that might be nice to have, so we can start to kind of actually get these conversations going. On the Android project, James, is there a place that you think would be smart to rally folks around with that? Like, I'm not sure if I don't know, just any developments kind of in that direction of getting a proper Android.
I can ask around.
Like we have just this one channel. I think I'm gonna add just an Android one. If there are Android,
Most of the Android hacking is like kind of I don't know if you know what XDA developers is, but it's like the subreddit like morass of Android development. Um, I'm on a Discord server with some real super Android nerds. I will
yeah,
touch base with because it's like I used to play around with that stuff a lot more, but right now it's one of I'm my main focus is going to be Linux and Raspberry Pi and getting these development kits running. So I can take responsibility to like kind of ask around and see where I can get balls rolling. But that's about it at this point. That might change later on.
yeah.
Zorkon, my son, will definitely be seeing what the hardware limitations are as far as what we can do with Android. And Openinterpreter. But that, there's just two of us. We all get so far. I'll ask
And
around.
I'm totally prepared too for the beginning of Android in this space to just purely be beaming it over the internet. Like I would be surprised if there is a way to get something like a llama file running. I will say to everybody though, if folks are interested, two things, and this is kind of like call to actions here to everybody too, is like one, we are fine tuning our own model. So as a part of Local 2, what we are releasing is the ability to use interpreter dash dash model I, and that is a free endpoint that when you talk to it, we're going to be using those conversations to train an open source language model for computer control. You don't need an API key. That's coming with Local 2. That is the model that I imagine us maybe distilling then and being the kinds of things that can power these edge devices, if ever they get powerful enough to be running open source models, or at least an ETA on that. I imagine like literally once we're collecting this data and we're doing this together, of there just being like we'll just deploy that local model to that same endpoint and keep going. I can imagine something happening like a month and a half. Great folks. But anyway, if you're interested in being involved in that, if you've played with like fine tuning of Llama 3, and okay, we have a great data set that the community is going to put together, we'll redact PII and then open source that so folks can be messing with this, please do get involved and hop into the Openinterpreter Discord and be playing with this. I know too we're beaming on X, so that's worth mentioning. Come into the Discord where a lot of this conversation is happening.
If somebody wants to get involved with that specifically, how best can they get involved? That's the local model part.
Let's do another chat. So Mike, do you have thoughts on if we should open a chat which is about this idea of like, I don't know, local LLMs kind of could be the focus of that chat?
Yeah, I think we should have maybe a roundtable sesh around it, get a few thoughts down, see the best way to proceed. Just for example, I saw you made the new security channel. There was one already under Builder, so we'll probably want to just like revamp the structure of the Discord a little bit to get more focused chats around this. Because even things like O1 and hardware, like they're so broad that we cover a lot of different things that getting a little more concentrated will be good. But also, people have been talking about like the possibility of like an old school forum style, just some different ways. So if anyone has experience with like a good way to organize a large group of people asynchronously so we can really get like some actionable
I gotcha.
conversations going, yeah, like that could be really powerful, getting this community well organized. So open to any thoughts and feedback there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go much harder, by the way, on the announcements, especially as we're about to hit 50K on GitHub. So I'm gonna start like launch that with a proper fucking Discord announcement, server wide. Let's get the gang back together, and I'll be pointing everybody to if we have places to talk about security, places to talk about fine tuning a language model, places to talk about developing an Android ROM. I'll put that onto the thing. So just come into the Discord, and I'll put that out as updates so that we all know after this how to do it. Now, the other thing I want to say is that, we've been thinking about making a version of Openinterpreter which is much simpler and is maybe written in Rust, and is not Python dependency hell kind of thing. And this is very kind of like medium long-term ideas here, but I don't know if anybody has thoughts on that. But I mean, if we're imagining actually running this stuff on much smaller hardware, we're just talking about making a language model, and when it writes like markdown blocks of code, then they just need to be executed. This is not hard. Like to imagine the simplest version of this. Why could point to addable endpoints, and then the Python package would actually just call up that Rust binary or whatever it gets compiled into, and then beam that and connect it to the light LLM endpoint basically, so that it could still work with everything. It would be no different for folks using a terminal interface. But this is probably the core of this. Now, I want you to imagine a Rust core of Openinterpreter that has an endpoint powered by Llama file, which is next to this, which includes this model that we're all going to be training. And this is all bundled into a Linux distribution or into an Android ROM, and is running on edge devices, embedded OI. I love that thought. I think that this is very much the future of this technology, is to try to leave Python land. So again, this is a medium-term, kind of long-term thing, but if you are familiar with Rust or have thoughts about this, just please also be involved in the Discord and be, I'll put out an announcement to everybody if we have a place to direct folks on how to start that project. Mojo is interesting, but I think getting out of this is simpler. It feels like to have something that could actually compile and be cross-platform would be really smart.
I do, like I was mentioning, I made an issue for it on the GitHub, but since you're already using a Llama file, Tunny also has a web server that runs on 6 different distros, etc., etc. It's called Redbean. I'm sure you can find it. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is Baco said it a couple of times in chat, but if you have any needs for compute, either for actually doing primary things, or if there are people that are working on stuff that could do more if they had more compute, you can get in touch with either me or Baco, and we can get you sorted out.
That's awesome. That's just like GPUs.
Yeah, there's not infinite ones, but Baco and the team have been working on some very interesting ways to do distributed inference. I'm not sure how much they want me to talk about it just yet, but yeah, we can just let us know if you need some compute and we can make it happen.
That's huge. That's awesome.
Killian, can I do a quick accessibility grant shout out once again?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. So Emil of Ohana, and also doing the accessibility grants, 50K for Openinterpreter developers. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, again in the last roundtable with Mike, there's just some awesome ideas being spoken about, from everything from speech to text, for people with impediments to how best to handle things like privacy, and where OI would come in, where AI comes in, in the accessibility and your journey, in general, things that were quite heavy. And we even had, I think, a member that was just shooting ideas like a machine gun, which is awesome. But I do believe in action and kind of trying to get get the ball rolling. I think, Killian, you said several times on this call, it's okay, let's get the most basic version of whatever working. So yeah, we have credits. I think up to 50K from Microsoft. Could even go higher. We recently got some Anthropic credits as well. Much less than 50K, but I'm not complaining. So yeah, any ideas, any concepts, any experiments, let's talk on the accessibility channel. Hit me up, hit us up, and I would love to start seeing some cool things, come out. And also, Killian, we didn't talk about this at one point. If there are any specific things you can rally around, when it comes to maybe some outstanding issues with OI or whatever that could use some credits or whatever. I'm happy to support that as well. So yeah, let's keep conversation going, and I'm happy to press the launch button on a couple of cool ideas. And yeah, tell everyone whether they're in the Discord channel or not. And let's kind of take action.
Yeah.
So yeah, just and big shout out to Killian and Mike and the rest of the team for kind of giving us a platform to make this happen. So let's make the best out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I love let's take action. That's a pretty awesome. That's a banger finale.
All together
To-
now.
um yeah, and Emil, the fact that you have poured in all those resources into this and that we're going to get to see folks experimenting on, I think, the most important thing you could possibly be doing with this tech, which is bringing more people onto the digital revolution. It's really exciting. I think that this might be a good time to close this out. We're coming in at like 2.5 hours. And we've covered everything from accessibility to local 2 to battling cyber robots, infosec, some future of the O1 stuff, and Two Dogs. An amazing demo. Like that was like it's mother of all demos. That was absolutely insane. And I think Yikes did have this recorded right on
Yep. I got it. Yeah, it's the X one. I don't know if that'll stay, but I do have it going to YouTube and Twitch as well. I'll publish it on both of them. Should be good to go.
Okay, and I think here's this in case anybody wants to jump in that. But
Mhm.
but if you have the YouTube one or the
Yeah,
Twitter,
I'll grab a link real quick just so we got it.
okay, that'd be awesome.
Thank you. I really appreciate you giving me so much time, Killian. I've been really wanting to show that off. So super duper thank you.
I'm so happy you could do that 10 times longer, and I would be as obsessed as I was. And please, yeah, let's do it. Let's check in at the next house party and see how you're doing. And also, I'm sure we'll talk between that and hopefully get some. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of cross pollination that happened at this house party more than I've seen in a little while. We're like, oh shit, you're working on that? Let's talk. Like, that's the best thing that could possibly come out of this whole project. Best thing that comes out of open source. Local 2, it is coming out. We're going to have our own language model, and it's easier to run language models. The rewrite is merging in. O1 is going to be much faster, and everybody, let's build on top of each other, and rising tide lifts all boats.
They have no moat.
Okay, love to all, and good night, everybody. This has been a really, really fun one. Also, we're all gonna try to just like be doing a little more impromptu streaming and stuff too, and also again hitting that Discord like server-wide update stuff. So expect that, and I'll see y'all at the next one.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Have a great night, everybody.
Yeah, like I said, I will make sure that I get this published and we should be good to go. Catch you next time for the next thing. I don't know if you're still listening to this. There's a Twitter space pinned to my Twitter profile. Go